I don't know about you guys, but I'm a huge fan of when superheroes get the role reversal and they flip from being the greatest superhero to ever exist to become the worst of the worst. With them sometimes even coming out more evil than the villains themselves. And sometimes I think it's just so funny when the villains in the stories just look at the villains doing so much more havoc than them and they just say, shit, we had it better than we actually thought. And one of my favorite stories involving this kind of concept originate from Forever Evil. The crime syndicate from Earth 3 arrive to Earth Prime and absolutely murk each member of the Justice League, along with taking out each pillar of defense the world has. With the crime syndicate even uniting every supervillain on the planet to wreak havoc everywhere, warning the whole world that if anyone opposes the crime syndicate, they will meet a deadly fate like Nightwing, as they expose his identity. Now, over the course of the story, there are some villains that hate the idea of just being pawns in the crime syndicate's game, with one of them being the biggest narcissist of them all, Lex Luthor. As during the crime syndicate's swift takeover of Earth and even pushing the fucking moon in front of the sun, Lex Luthor went underground to activate a secret clone of Superman he had been incubating in the hopes to one day have a Superman of his own that he could control. However, the Superman B0 would be activated 5 years too early and be severely underpowered along with the intelligence of a 2-year-old, but Lex would have to work with what he had. Meanwhile, villains like the Flash's rogues would have a confrontation with the crime syndicate, and let's just say things didn't end well. Along with this, Ultraman would fly off to Kahndaq in an effort to absorb kryptonite to increase his strength, but instead would end up fighting Black Adam, leading the two to trade a few blows until Ultraman would break Black Adam's jaw, winning the fight. After this point, the villains beaten and bruised would unite through the product of circumstance in an effort to defeat the crime syndicate. Along with this, Batman and Catwoman would find themselves at the Batcave unlocking a vault full of failsafes for the Justice League if they ever went rogue, but most of the tools would be useless except for a yellow lantern ring and a kryptonite ring. After acquiring the gear, the pair would head out only to find themselves in a fight immediately against the villain Power Ring, thus causing Batman to use the yellow lantern ring. However, in using the ring, Batman wouldn't use it to its full potential and end up nearly dying, until Lex and the others would arrive to save them. And in Batman using the yellow lantern ring, Sinestro would arrive to Earth and hunt down Power Ring as he shares the same face as his counterpart Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, with Sinestro chasing the shit out of Power Ring and even later dismembering Power Ring's arm and burning him alive. Once the fight had ended, some more villains decide to join Lex and his group, along with Batman, who reluctantly joins due to having no other choice. Later, Batman, Lex, and the other villains would find the crime syndicate's base within the Watchtower that crashed into Rhode Island during their attack. And the team would split up into two groups, one to save Nightwing, comprising of Lex Luthor, Batman, Catwoman, and Bizarro, and the other team to distract the crime syndicate, being Deathstroke, Sinestro, Black Adam, Black Manta, and Captain Cold. Upon Lex and Batman entering the Watchtower, they'd quickly find Nightwing hooked up to a nuclear bomb with a timer. And with only 5 minutes to spare, the team would have to figure out a way to disarm the bomb, as the bomb was created to be undisarmable. And realizing there is no other way to disarm the bomb, Lex would have Bizarro attack Batman, while Lex would kill Nightwing to disarm the bomb. Meanwhile, the other team, while walking through the Watchtower, would find a man strapped to a chair. And upon freeing the man, the crime syndicate would show up in an effort to kill the villains, with Johnny Quick and Atomica fighting off Black Manta and Captain Cold, while Ultraman, Deathstorm, and Superwoman would fight off Black Adam and Sinestro. And during the fighting, Captain Cold would manage to freeze and break off Johnny Quick's leg, taking him out of the fight indefinitely. Meanwhile, everything has just become complete chaos, with Batman beating the shit out of Lex for killing Nightwing, along with several other villains fighting all over the place. And the strange dude Black Manta and Captain Cold released would shout the word massage, turning into a hero like Captain Marvel with the power to absorb people's powers and life force, as he's shown killing Johnny Quick. He also turns out to be Earth 3's version of Lex Luthor to put the icing on the cake. So this powerful and more evil Lex Luthor flies out to kill the crime syndicate and manages to kill Deathstorm almost instantly and manages to make Ultraman take a nap. Meanwhile, after a little scrap between Lex and Batman, Lex would reveal that he didn't kill Nightwing after all, but that he only stopped his heart long enough for the nuclear bomb to disarm, as he injects a shot of adrenaline into Nightwing, reviving him. After this, the whole team reunites and they realize that the main threat now is the more evil Lex Luthor, as he's killing everyone in his path. So after a bit of some unproductive fighting, Bizarro tries to take on the Lex with powers alone, but ends up getting punched so hard in the chest by the powered Lex that Bizarro's chest caves in, causing Bizarro to die, thus inspiring Prime Lex to get revenge on his doppelganger for taking his monster away from him. So during the fight, Lex realizes that they sound just alike, so if he says massage in the same vicinity as his Lex counterpart, he can depower him. So after a bit of more fighting, Lex shouts the magic words and stabs the depowered Lex, and tells him that he may have not been as strong as him, but he was a hell of a lot smarter than him, as the Justice League are released from within Firestorm and work to repair the world. Meanwhile, Lex and his team of villains became the heroes that day as they successfully stopped the crime syndicate. And on top of this, by the end, when Superman had exited the Firestorm Matrix, Superman still had a piece of kryptonite in his brain, and the only person who could save him was Lex Luthor. So later on, Lex would perform the surgery and save Superman from the clutches of death, and realize after that day what it truly meant to be a hero, ending the story. I hope you guys liked the story, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and as always, I'll catch y'all on the flip side.